Well, hi everybody. It is February. No, it is January. Oh God. It is the start of a whole new 4 years or 1 year, whoever's counting. CES is in the bag, as we say. And what I like to say at the virtual events group, we look at all events, but we happen to be very involved with the CES event, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We This year we built a creator space for the first time, but I invited a few folks who were in at CES doing different things to share their version of what they saw with you and to invite you to share right back at us so that this is a very interactive because I do think CES kind of sets the tone for innovation
Right,
for the
right.
year. Um, it came at quite the moment while Los Angeles fires were burning and a new president was about to take office. So it's never a dull CES, but this one, everything that surrounded it made it feel quite unique. And I think the changes that we saw will serve us well through the year. And I always say, like I said, it's like the blind man and the elephant. You touch a part of CES, and that is the part of CES that's you. But today, what I hope happens is you all get to say, hey, but did you see that thing over there? And how will this affect me? So I'm going to give you a couple of visuals just to get you started here. Um, yeah, okay. So what we learned at CES, Ryan Schramm is with us also, who didn't make it onto the slide head, but you have a good sampling of folks representing all sorts of areas who were at CES. Just to remind you and set the scene, this is what CES looked like in 1967 when it began, with 14 exhibitors basically showcasing their television sets and grew from there. The stats this year are 141,000 attendees, over 4,000, well over 4,000 exhibitors, press, marketers, so many different areas to explore. And we're going to ask you where you were and what you saw in a minute. But I always say there's always like one sleeper product at every CES that all of a sudden everybody is buzzing about. If you were at CES 2024, it was the toilet bowl that lets you evaluate your pee for uh, different enzymes and different things. This year, I'm going to say it was the electric salt spoon. Show of hands, have people heard or seen the electric salt spoon? Right, this came out of nowhere. It mimics the taste of salt through electricity, great for low sodium diets for people that like salty food. So I'm going to pause now and introduce the folks who are with us and call on you. Who else saw something kind of weird? Melissa, I know you had one.
Yes. Okay. So there was a company called Spicer, and they had a spice dispenser. It wasn't even really a grinder. It was just a dispenser. And it was like you would put like maybe five little cylinders of spices into it. And then on top of it, it had a screen where you could tell it how much of each spice you wanted to distribute. And it just seemed like one of those products that was solving for a problem that no one has. Like nobody wants to make a custom spice blend on the fly in a bottle with a and I could just imagine myself, I'm of that age where I need reading glasses. And like now I'm in the kitchen and I'm trying to cook and now I'm trying to see this touch screen on the top of the spice. And it only held like five types of spices. So if you wanted to use different spices, you then had to change them out and put them in the cylinders. And that one just seemed like such a waste of time. And it was one of those moments where you sit there and you're like, somebody invested millions in this product.
Well, though, you could
Why?
see, like, if you want to start your own business and get the right spice blend, I guess it's not crazy. I'm seeing a lot of personalization like that. Justin, I think you talk a lot about personalization from what
Yeah.
you saw at the show, Justin's with AWS.
Hey there. Great to see you, and thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, what I think what stood out to me actually was the fact that there was a significant number of executives there from most of the major consumer goods brands. And that has only been increasing over the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years. And so you think about like there's retail and there's consumer goods, and both we've seen an increase in terms of their participation at CES, but especially on the consumer goods side, where the brands are there looking for innovation, new ideas, new context, new like inspiration, I'd call it, for their innovation cycle. They're in the consumer goods industry. There really isn't another space like throughout the year that's so innovative and so challenging with new tech. And so that presents opportunity. And so we spent a lot of time from the Amazon side with customers, not just marketers, not just brand leaders, but their leaders of their entire leadership team oftentimes were there. And so that was, I think, something that was I noticed this year a real uptick. I think that's going to lead to more retail and consumer goods track content in the future, which I think will be interesting for all of us if you're in the industries that I cover. So, but yeah, those are some of the things, and I'll dive later into some of the things we talked about with like shoppable video.
So we're back at the spoon. Anybody else have one wacky product they saw other than my spoon here?
I have one for you, Robin, and I don't know if anyone else saw it as well. A really interesting company, I think from Japan, named Yukai Engineering, had the most odd yet adorable robotic sloth called Marumi. And like
Yes.
I wasn't carrying a backpack or a purse, but that they were demoing it by like having it cling onto you. And it was like this very almost like scarily like living creature, right? It was shy at first. It would sort of cover its eyes and like you'd have to talk to it calmly and like just like you would a real animal, like earn Marumi's trust. And I think that there were multiple people when I walked by repeatedly who were ready to throw cash at these guys right then and there to take the demo home with them.
Right. And it fits in their suitcase, but it's sort of like Tamagotchi meets the new robots, right?
It really is.
Right. Which is, I think if you look at CES over the years, you see these trends appear and reappear. So I call this one my what could go wrong product. So everybody, I think, remembers when Roombas were first introduced. God bless them. But now there were all of these variants of Roombas on the show floor with attachments that you put on, ones that picked up socks that were in the way, ones that vacuumed, ones that mopped, ones that had various attachments to go on your couch and off your couch. So I think you're starting to see that home automation category. This one happens to be Robosaurus, but I think you're starting to see that home automation category really get creative with robotics brains. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Anybody in the audience?
I saw one similar that automated at-home laundry, and I'm all for it. If you can save time in my day, then better off with robotics doing it than me.
Yep, yep. Laundry is a recurring theme also that just gets better and better. Everybody see the AI powered washing machines that I still can't quite tell you
Yeah,
what the AI.
Samsung had the wonderful microwave where you could, see inside the microwave, outside the microwave, have a screen on it. It had everything you could possibly want, only to be trumped by the LG Aero Cat Tower, which your cat could sit on an air purifier tower.
Yes. No, this, Samsung's good. And Samsung, if you remember, I think they had the first internet connected refrigerator also with cameras inside the fridge that would look at your products, tell you the expiration dates you missed. There's no shortage of innovation, and then it becomes a price and uh, price performance and how the complexity of some of these products. Like sometimes it just might be easier to open the fridge door. But if you remember in the early Samsung, it gave you recipes on a little touch screen on the front based on what was in your refrigerator. So, how many people tried on glasses while they were at the show? So another great category, wearables is a huge category and has been since the very first smartwatch. And this year, I think smartwatches took a back seat to, I call it the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Wearables you could put on every single part of your body to to measure just about anything or correct just about anything. So I know, Janey, you spent a bunch of time in the wearables. And by the way, if anybody can tell me why I was wearing all these AR glasses, like, yes, I could see a monitor and I could play a game, but still see the real world in front of me. But I hadn't, and taking picture photos was great, but wasn't quite there. Although, Janey, I know you have the Meta glasses and you love them.
Yeah, so just very quickly, first of all, thank you, Robin, Virtual Events Group, Gigi, Shona, all of you for hosting this conversation. Very excited to be here. It was actually my first CES. I'm a complete newbie to the whole tech conference experience, and I've been a huge proponent of the Ray-Ban Meta glasses from a content perspective. So I've been using them for, creating content with photos, videos, but also going live on Instagram, obviously, because it's connected to Meta, taking calls, listening to podcasts, or talking to ChatGPT on a mental health walk. But yes, the wearable tech area within CES, it was literally glasses everywhere, AI glasses, AR glasses, glasses that were solving problems in terms of translation, which we saw at Meta Connect previously, but a lot of these models are already doing it. Literally being able to look into glasses similar to the way that an Apple Vision Pro operates for a much tinier price tag than the Apple Vision Pro, but to be able to see a whole green screen overlaid on top of what you see in real life. And there was also ones for those who were hearing impaired or also, were visually couldn't see or had different issues. So I just felt like there was a lot more problem-solving tech. Whereas for me, as much as I love the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and they're doing things as well with, I think, Be My Eyes and having volunteers to be able to connect with those users who are using it. But the difference that I saw for the glasses at CES was that they were trying to solve different problems related to translation, hearing, seeing, also augmented reality. So it was really the next gen of glasses that were more accessible than just say, Snap Spectacles, which are a developer version, or Apple Vision Pro, which is super clunky, and a lot of people returned it. A, because of the price tag, and B, because it was causing neck problems.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting we saw was in our retail sessions where Lowe's actually is working with Apple Vision Pro to design your living room. Like, you walk into the store, sit down with the designer, and you are just moving furniture around and seeing what's going on. I think the other, moving off of your eyes, and the price points of the AR glasses, by the way, are great. And and then there are things like on the health side, there are glasses that help people with macular degeneration by focusing their vision of fields. So you're seeing amazing glasses. We saw some earbuds too that basically replace the need to ever wear a smartwatch. We've seen wearable clothing, wearable sneakers that measured your gait, your stride as a runner, wearable clothing that corrected for your posture. So this idea of putting sensors into everything from the clothes we wear to the things we put on us. Anybody see any good rings? There was clearly the Aura ring, but the Samsung had their ring at the show this year. And
I was going to say Aura because I am like an original Aura user. And so I was interested to see, I thought there would be more at this point, right? I thought there would be more smart rings and that even Aura would be doing more with it. But I think we're up to the Aura 4, and I'm still happy with the original. So I think there's still some room for growth in what they can do with the rings. But going back to the earbuds, I think we're getting really close to like a Star Trek Universal Translator type situation, because some of them are trying to solve for translation almost real time. And that to me was super exciting because I mean that literally opens up the world to people.
The Meta glasses have it now.
Robin, it's Gary.
You can live listen to translation live on many different languages immediately, which is incredible. So like
So
travel
cool.
with AR glasses that immediately translate, and also say, we can say, what am I looking at, to read signs that aren't in your language, or menus or something like that, or transportation, and get understand what they're saying on the PA or talking to someone. That changes everything for me.
So no
Yeah.
more Google Translate is what you're saying. You can now go to a country, and that's Travis Keys, everybody. Travis was with us as a Sony ambassador, a Harlow ambassador, Adobe, just a very talented viewer of all things tech. So what'd you think of?
Robin, Gary here, and I appreciate this. You're talking about things on your body. I noticed how many smart toilets and AI equipped smart toilets, which deal with things coming out of your body, which have sensors and monitors and all kinds of valuable things. A friend of mine who was first time at the show was impressed by that until I told him they've had those for about 10 years. And that's an issue of CES. It's always what's a little bit new, not what's brand new. And
But they're getting, yeah, they are, you're right. They are getting better and better. As a matter of fact, we had Thomas Serval from Barracuda, who believes the bathroom should be the smart room in your home. So he's got a mirror when you're looking at, not only is it a good makeup light, but it's actually looking at the health of your skin, the texture of your skin, pre-diagnosing any potential conditions. He's got a smart bath mat. He's got the toothbrush. So sort of this bathroom is smart ecosystem.
I love that. Robin, I just want to answer your question about the rings, Ultra Human, because I come from the beauty fashion retail industry over 20 years, and then I got into wearable tech, AI, digital fashion tech. They dropped the first luxury smart ring. So they're going to be sold in Selfridges, which is a luxury retailer in the UK, 18 karat gold. So
Yeah.
it's really taking wearable tech to wearable fashion tech and making it aesthetic, and also to an audience that will be willing to pay for a premium price point for either, even, I imagine we're going to see designer collaborations. Tiffany, I wouldn't be surprised if LVMH is going to come out with a smart ring, especially with the helm of the next generation of the Arnault family, who are already into Bored Apes, NFTs, and things of that nature.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the virtual world, but
Yeah.
yeah, you actually just reminded me what we didn't see and we heard about all year long, and I don't know if anybody saw them, the AI jewelry companions. Janey, I know we talked a bit about that. The necklaces that kind of had ChatGPT built in to them. There were a whole raft of products earlier in the year that didn't seem to make it to the CES show floor. Anybody?
How
Yeah,
about the
that
rabbit from last year, like crashing and burning in less than a year's time?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. They all just didn't they didn't work in the real world. I've never read a good real world review of any of those little
Yeah,
wearable
yeah.
assistants. It's kind of like you already have a phone. Like maybe this was a good idea, but it just doesn't work in reality. So I think they're gone for now.
Yeah, and some of the functionality in rings was actually stripped away. I know Aura tried to put payments in their rings so you could tap your finger to pay, and it
No,
just
not really. Does that
nope.
answer your question?
Did I hear a question? So I don't think it some of the features just don't work out well and disappear from the product. So um I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Let me go back to my little PowerPoints here and see what's up next. As a thought stimulator for you, um, so uh, since we are the virtual events group, we talk about the lavishness of CES as well as the products. So I think the show stealer was the Delta keynote. Any show of hands, raise your hand if you managed to snag a ticket and go to Sphere and watch Delta deliver their 100-year anniversary speech, replete with smell-o-vision. So there were times when the Sphere smelled like coffee or it smelled like a campfire. You sat and the haptics in your seat made it feel like you were in the cockpit. There was Lenny Kravitz, and It just gives you a sense of some of the pomp and circumstance and dollars that are going into this show to get a message across. And actually, I thought it was a lovely keynote. I thought Ed Bastian did a great job. But it was the ticket of the show to be a totally immersive environment to hear about Delta. And they mixed the humanness super well, which is something I think we should come back and talk about because I think it's the human touch. The first, the stewardess, the first flight attendant when they went bankrupt and had to buy a plane and chip in was there. And it was a really human story of the turnaround story of an airline. And they had me eating out of the palm of their hand by the end. So
What amazing self-awareness by Ed and his team to even associate Delta in the first place with the consumer technology realm, right? Like, I have to imagine if you told someone 10 years ago at American Airlines, at JetBlue, at Southwest, hey, you should do a keynote at CES, they would look at you and be like, we fly planes. What will we have to talk about there? And so to have Delta back for the second time, now here at the Sphere, but originally over at Venetian, I just think is so telling about how they position themselves amongst
yeah,
their competitive set. And truly from a consumer experience, not just how having that premium in-cabin experience is so critical, but the fact that what makes it premium by and large is the involvement of technology. Like the connection of those things is such a powerful message. And then you put the human element, the fact that they bring, what is it, 200 flight attendants and crews to actually be the ushers and to welcome people and do the special things for medallion members at the airport to welcome you to town. Like I really do think, and I'm biased, I'm a Delta medallion. I've flown them for my entire life, but putting that aside, it's hard to think of something they could have done better, even than all the brands that were showing at CES. They really knocked it out of the park.
yeah, I think so too. And I guess it was the year before when John Deere keynoted. Same thing. What is a tractor doing at CES? Well, this tractor is now the most tech forward of tractors and became, number one because of the tech story they told, water usage, sustainability, better crops. So I think positioned right, it's amazing. And Gigi Robinson, I know that you have stuff to say that you saw as well, and you were with us in the Creator Lab. You spent a lot of time in the C-suite also.
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me at CES, having me speak on the stage, introducing me to so many amazing people, like some of the people on this call. I had so much fun. It was my first CES. So I actually went in completely blind. I did have an itinerary that I used AI to help me organize. But I will say there was just no way I was going to do it all. And I thought that I would be able to bounce around from place to place to be able to do it all. And the reality is the relationship building element of it for me. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a content creator and public speaker. So I focus a majority of my time on relationship building and connecting with people on this call, like Robin and Gigi and Ryan and so many others. And so that was my priority. My priority was hanging out in places like the creator space, like the C space, and also at the C space, it was, at the Aria, it was definitely just about networking and meeting people. And I did go to that female quotient lounge as well. And I did meet a lot of people that were in the marketing space. I also ran into friends from the industry that I had no idea were even at CES. And it was a brilliant surprise. I also met some other friends like AJ, who was on here before, who also spoke for you guys. And it was just really an incredible first time experience. And I think next year I would go into it with a little bit more nuance and scheduled out those business meetings that I want to have ahead of time. And the other thing I thought was really cool, I know we mentioned, someone in the chat mentioned that Delta unveiled that whole YouTube integration that they're having on the flights. And I did know that YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat alone all had activations happening in and around the area, and Pinterest. And I thought that was very smart. And I think hopefully as time goes on, they'll continue to bring out influencers and content creators to the space to enjoy the tech, to experience the show, but also just to market all of this new tech. There's so much beauty in just like being at a conference and enjoying it for what it is and networking and experience a product, and also being an early adopter of it. Like, how cool is it to hear about a product and see it like actually go to market and be in that beginning stage and be a creator that has the first hand look at it. And I know there are creators there, and you guys did such an amazing job pulling in some really heavy hitters, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much. And it was so fun.
Tell us what happened to you. Did you snag one interview that made it all worth it, or one photo op, or one brand deal?
I mean, aside from like the happy hour where I met Ryan, and I got special one-on-one time with you and Gigi, as well, and we just got to really like learn more about each other as humans, and also just kind of humanize such a digital first industry. The industry that I'm in, if that wasn't clear besides content, is like with an emphasis on mental health, and that was what our panel was about. And I do believe that the social media world and the influencer world can get so much more human than it is, and so much less transactional. So for me, Ryan and I were like talking at the happy hour, and then we went out to dinner after, and like we couldn't stop like ripping off ideas. And I think moments like that were cool. Also moments again where I got to meet other content creator friends who I've since had meetings with, and we've talked about content strategy, and I've implemented some of those things, and I've seen the growth already. Hopefully next year that leads to like partnerships, ambassadorships, and showing up with those key sponsors as a content partner.
It's a really good point, because over the years, as Gigi was just saying, not only are there new areas of CES this year, there was a quantum area, there was a food tech area, there was an ag tech area, beauty, fashion, but they're intergenerational. It's probably the first time in the industry that, somebody as old as me and as young as Gigi are going to the same show with different expectations, meeting people. When I first started going to CES, a panel was an hour long, and you had to sit there and like it, and it was always the CEO that gave it. It wasn't the person who knew the most. I think there's a real hunger for authenticity. And Adam, I think you can speak to that also, sort of the changing face of how you present tech. We talked about tech in a context, tech that can cross generations, tech that can tell a story. Adam, you've been walking around the show floor, and tell us how you spent your CES time.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Just for context, I was there to speak on the first creator space track, and kicked off the week with a state of the creator economy, which is my background of almost 20 years, long before it was called the creator economy. I think it was really interesting. It was my first time back at CES in 10 years. Just quickly, shout out to Gigi for giving me the heads up on the Tesla loop, which was my first time taking that. I can see that expanding to the airport, which would make it a lot easier for all of us. That was one of my takeaways, the Tesla loop, and how convenient that was. My other perspective is this convergence of the creators that were there were actually recognized as media, and there were a lot of really interesting niche creators covering the tech space. They're reviewers and just advocates for tech in general. And then there was the C-Space brand innovation track, and there was a disconnect. So I'd love to see convergence over time where those worlds meet, because I think creators were the talk of the town. They are the gatekeepers to the consumers, who are the ultimate audience for these products. So I think incorporating creators at all levels, not just as media coverage, and also using creators as your creative directors in-house. That's one of the big things I advocate for. It's like, they know their audiences are your consumers. So let's put them to work and make sure they're being paid to be put to work. I attended the NVIDIA keynote, which was amazing. Came off like a rock star, that CEO. I went to the X keynote with Linda Yaccarino. I have my
go back to NVIDIA for a minute. So this is a chip, but it was like a rock and roll concert, right?
I mean, he came out in a sequin jacket like a rock star, and just, the graphic effects, the stadium, the audience, obviously. I mean, this is the top of the top right now. So to hear this CEO speak, Jensen Huang, it was like, for them, it was their icon, and I think he realized that and kind of played into it. And he was, with a wink way, he was in on the joke, and just seeing the audience response there with some of those updates and announcements. And I do think that's like, for me, on the other side of it, and I'm learning a lot on this call. Even it's like by the time that trickles down to the everyday consumer and how that influences and impacts our lives from the stage in CES, like we won't actually implement any of that for a year plus, but knowing the people that are in the know and know how that's being utilized at a more senior level, it's really interesting to hear their feedback in real time as those announcements are made. With
And you also write about social platforms a lot. And
Yep.
CES this year, again, the TikTok countdown clock was
Yeah.
running overtime. We were heading right towards the shutdown. So from your perspective, like, and all these creators there, and creators have always been at CES, but this is the first time we formalized it. And we said, hey, you're all here, you're all taking pictures, you all want to do business. Let's make a space that's yours. And at the same time, as you're doing your work, you can up your skills and learn something. So we have this creator lab, and you know that did you get a lot of questions about what am I going to do when TikTok shuts
Well,
down?
this is where I would say roll the tape, because if you listen to my panel, I predicted it accurately. I said we're just trying to kick the can for the new administration, which is exactly what's taken place. And Trump's bought a little bit more time to figure out divesting the ownership in TikTok, or what will the next steps look like. We had our little outage on Sunday, as we'll call it, but back up and running, and I believe back up in the app stores today. So it's still a waiting game. We will find out in the next 75 days, but I would bet my money that TikTok is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Can I also add something on that?
Yes, Gigi. Yeah.
So I love what Adam just said about creators kind of being in the know and being involved with the decision makers that are doing all the marketing, and like the value of, these moments where you can get to meet a CEO or somebody from the marketing team at any number of these booths or any of these private panels, or places like the creator space, or even like the brand innovation space. Like I rolled up to a couple of them and I was like, oh, like, are there any people that do influencer marketing here? Can I meet you? Can I talk with you? And being in the room and having that curiosity, even though I'm a mental health creator, I still use almost every single major brand that was at the C space. Same thing with even like at the Female Quotient Lounge, like they had so many brand sponsors there of brands that I use. Because they're brand sponsors there were the key people that do those sponsorships there. And while they do live event sponsorships, that doesn't mean that they don't know the person there who does influencer marketing. And I don't know if a lot of creators are thinking of it that way, but from what Adam's saying, it seems like brands are starting to recognize the value and at least pull creators into that. And TikTok, my prediction was that they put up a space in the C space, which could have most likely cost them a lot of money. They also threw a happy hour, which probably cost them a lot of money. And I just thought if they invested so much money, supposedly last minute, into CES, that they were not planning on going anywhere. So that was my prediction, right ahead of the curve. And while, yes, Adam did say we had a little kerfuffle last weekend, seems to be normal for now.
It does. No, and I love that you had the swagger, let's say, to ask people who the influencer was. This is like so important. And I do think overall CES exhibitors are pretty open people by and large. There's not so much of that hierarchy. But let's go back to Adam. So you also went to Linda Yaccarino's, you got to hear about Twitter. Do you feel like you heard the truth or what?
I have mixed thoughts. I respect her as an executive and as a seasoned ad salesperson. I was surprised because it is CES, and I didn't feel like there were any major product announcements. She was a bit delusional in taking credit for what was also announced that day, which is Mark Zuckerberg removing the community moderation from Meta. And as you know, X sort of led the way in that charge. So that overtook the conversation. And, for good or bad, it's a major disruptor in our space, and we'll see how that all plays out. Yeah, I was surprised there weren't much on the product innovation side as it relates to X. There was a little bit of like video and ad tech stuff, but nothing game changer.
Yeah.
My last point, just reiterating some of the stuff Gigi was saying. My most interesting takeaway was the CMO of Keurig Dr. Pepper referencing Ryan Trahan, who's a YouTuber, and his consumer goods brand, which is called Joyride. It's a candy brand. So the fact that CMOs and C-suite are talking about these types of creators that, you know, I've been working with for 10 years plus, times have really changed. It's really interesting, and it's to recognize it at that senior level, I think is very telling.
And I think it's being set up. I'm sorry, Justin Honaman from AWS had to drop off the phone, but he was on our retail panel, and we predicted that this would be the year of social commerce, that the platforms, in particular, Insta, Snap, TikTok.
I caught a piece of his panel, and I can just reiterate, I think we're seeing it in real time. I mean, this was a trend in Asia for long before us. TikTok Shop has made a point to really full stop put it in your face, and I think they're leading the charge now. You also have Amazon, LTK, other affiliate type networks that will figure out what live shopping looks like, and the fact that consumers and audience are actually starting to utilize it for everyday purchases, I think is very telling. So
and don't sleep on Whatnot. Whatnot is another. I mean, it's
Whatnot is massive with their huge raise.
Whatnot,
and they I mean, they're in that fandom. It's like QVC fandom edition. It's fascinating, and they're pushing so much money through creators there, and it's really great to see. And I'd like to say overall, I was so pleased with how the folks at CES see creators this year, because, you know, I'm going into year 13 in the YouTube journey, and, you know, nobody would have ever wanted to talk to us. You know, even 5 years ago, they wouldn't even think, they'd be like, oh, yeah, YouTuber, what do I need that for? But, you know, now it is so great to see so many creators working with these huge brands and really getting the recognition.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to have to do another segment just solely on legacy, traditional media. We had the TikToker for the Washington Post that I didn't, on one of our panels. Thanks again to Gigi Raskin for figuring that all out. But she had the best one-liner, I thought, of the whole creator space. She said, I started my job and people thought, Washington Post, is that a guy named Washington who posts a lot? So that was that. So you're really seeing an inflection point that I think will actually come together as traditional media manages their footing more and more in real-time journalism, and as creators and influencers make it very clear where their facts and information is coming from and what they're reporting on, what is branded and paid for, what is not. I think you're going to start to see a whole new set of engagement rules by this time next year. So let's see.
So Melissa, do you think that QVC and HSN, which are kind of in the dump right now, should just be bought out by Meta, and that way you're going literally full Meta? You're like having the desktop, mobile, and broadcast experience for social commerce?
I mean, they've got to do something, but you know, I think there's still a place for that traditional shopping on the television thing. But as those customers start to leave,
what if the hosts were creators though, like you? Because I think that changes things too, right?
You know, I have been trying to get a show on QVC forever. So, but Amazon did a trial, and I wish they would bring it back where they had. I mean, they're doing their live shopping now.
That was cool.
Actually
I like
had
that.
A studio, like you know, and I went to the studio and pitched toys, and it was really, really cool. So I'd love to see that come back. You know, they're doing great with what they're doing now with the live shopping, but I would love for them to solidify it more and make it more of a prominent thing.
So how many years before CES becomes a live shopping show?
Year.
I mean, you joke about that, Robin, but I think there's actually an interesting nuance to it. I
do too.
One of the problems with CES is you can't buy the thing that's being shown off the floor. It's not available yet most times, right? And so there's a whole argument for like if you could buy the things socially, in person or otherwise, or at least some of them, there's real retail opportunity there. I'd also throw out there, which is not high tech at all, but it could be, I suppose, if New Balance set up a shoe store in the middle
Oh,
of Central Hall, they would make bank across the week of CES. Like absolute bank.
and a
100%.
chiropractor. Yeah, no, well, I think that was one of the biggest trends. Actually, when Ed Bastian came out in his Delta sneakers, I said, that is it. It is a sneakerhead show. It is just, if you look down at the show at any given point, you just saw some of the coolest sneakers you have ever seen. And where we used to suffer through heels and hide the sneakers in our bag for between meetings. So great for that. Right. And a premium coffee shop, says Adam. Yup. So, any other thoughts or comments about the show or keynotes? Because if not, I'm going to go back to I'm going to just browse through here. Anybody go to the Reddit booth? Again, this is a company without a product, so there's no hardware, but it was a conversation starter booth, and it was really well done. And their mission was to drive businesses to have Reddit channels and to do business there. And I think they succeeded really well. The car companies spared no expense, and then the audios. This was Bosch. Bosch took out the entire T-Mobile arena, so you had Delta taking out Sphere. So these adjunct areas, they had bars, they had presentations, they had test drives, they had product displays, listening lounges, and made really good use of their space. Anybody else jump in there?
Well, how
Yeah,
about
I
just the
wanted to jump
magnitude of
in.
all these things? The size of these, to say it's at T-Mobile is one thing, but we're talking about a regulation NHL hockey rink
Yeah.
sized space, right? Horizontally, and then 300 feet tall vertically, right? So you had the scoreboards, the message boards. I think you said it in the prep call, Robin, more LEDs that we know what to do with. And this is Bose, which no offense, Bose is wonderful, love their products, but is actually a very interesting middle-sized brand comparatively at CES to be doing something like this. And I think it also speaks to like the difficulty now to stand out is it's always been hard. It is darn near impossible now. So the arms race for the most unique space is not floor position. I would argue it's venue buyout. Like same with Dolby taking over Park
Yeah.
MGM and having Imagine Dragons, right? Like those enormous things now are just what it takes to draw eyeballs.
Yeah, and I think but then Ryan, the flip side of that is they cannibalize the show.
No
So
doubt.
South by Southwest is a great example of it's now everywhere, but at the arena, it's
And you can't win that race. I mean, the thing about an arms race is it's impossible to win, and it just becomes a little bit ridiculous over time. But I also think that Rob, like what's happening is like there's two things. Like you're seeing the magnitude play, like a Bose or an Nvidia, where you're taking
Mhm.
over an MGM Grand Arena, a T-Mobile Arena, what have you. You're also seeing the plethora of these very curated, smaller things that are invite only that are happening alongside the show as well. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
I No, I agree with you. And you're also saying, I used to run PC Magazine. I would tell my editors, go to the edges. Don't just spend your time in the big booths. Like, go see what is happening. And now that's been codified into Eureka Park so that you can walk through and see the people who spend pretty much their last dollar getting to the show. And it's make or break, sometimes government sponsored by some of our international guests. But anybody see anything in Eureka Park that was my favorite year at Eureka Park? I bought the bird cam with the camera that took pictures and fed it to your phone every time a bird ate out of your bird feeder. Greatest product ever. And actually, they've gone on to do quite well. Anybody else see a Eureka Park?
I'm not sure
Something?
if it's Eureka Park, but I did go to a very back area because I wanted to focus on checking out the latest in terms of beauty, fashion, retail, and wearable tech. I literally went through the app and sorted through, and well, definitely this is my first time this year. So next year, like Gigi Robinson was saying, I was very greedy. I wish I could clone myself. That was not possible, but I did go to a very back area to do a scalp analysis that was AI generated. And go through this whole process. As a Korean company, they actually have partnered with L'Oreal as well as other big beauty giants around the world. And it was incredible because literally they would take from 6 different points on your scalp, run it through a reader, and it will give you all the different issues and rate your scalp health, and then it will connect you to product. And I know in the creator space area, there was Perfect Core, kind of similar in this sense where it's for the skin, and also L'Oreal that launched, their bio cell print, I think that's what it's called, in terms of analyzing your skin and connecting it to product to sales. And it just kind of made me think, like Ryan, you were talking about, bringing in live shopping commerce or, HSN QVC. Melissa, I'd love to talk to you about it afterwards. Because I've actually worked on live shopping for social media and also for big conglomerates in Korea, China, and Asia before. And there's a whole method to the madness. And I think there's an aspect of being able to bring, a live show, live podcast, live shopping to CES and the creator area even, and have, brands to sponsor. We were talking about earlier, Robin, employee generated content, also UGC, as well as creator content, of kind of doing a merge between it all and people being able to have a demo of the product, but also being able to buy it either on site or ship it to their location because they travel globally or nationally and they don't want to carry it around. But I will end with a note was, I come from the marketing space, but also I've worked in retail operations, done press walkthroughs, media, social media events and things like that. And I just found it was very strange to me because you would have to set up an appointment to do a walkthrough, but I felt like a lot of times they would lose a lot of people. So it was confusing to me, and maybe this is something that some of the brands were doing at CES. Maybe I didn't see it, or maybe there's a reason they were not doing it. But even every 15 minutes or 30 minutes, having someone do a very quick tight walkthrough about the product, about the benefits, whether or not it's on the market, what the retail is, and driving people either for sales, for creator partnerships, for distribution, because they want to get into, distribution sales channels. I just felt like there was a little bit of a gap for me unless I scheduled an appointment or specifically asked for a walkthrough. It didn't feel like the best use of time. And similarly, I went to the L'Oreal media event, which it was great. I mean, there were different key areas that you could look at the tech, but there was no official walkthrough, and we only had 10 minutes within that space. And as much as I love what L'Oreal put out, I just question, if you're going to spend all this money as a brand to go to these events, I think they really need to think through what's the brand partnership, what's the ROI, and how do I get as much media impressions, whether or not it's through, official media channels or content creators, or even, getting distribution and sales out of it. It just felt like a little bit of a miss.
You hit on the head, Janey. I mean, that's the conundrum with CES right now, is like who the economic buyer is and who the attendee is are now very different things. And so a lot of those invite only exhibits and vendors tend to be slated for an era ago when it was just buyers that you were catering to. And they've sort of slimmed down the way that they want to impact, which to your point is opportunity waste, because you have so many constituencies there that at the end of the day, it generally makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense to have the whole, red carpet rolled out that you would for a buyer, you probably want to have a secondary experience for everybody else. It feels like otherwise.
And I'll just jump in. There are curated tours, and
That's right.
They are for, people that buy them. And, then begs the question, should there be a curated tour for the rest of us? Like if cars is your thing, could there be a once a day curated tour? Which reminds me, Ryan, we got to get back to your assessment of the car part of the show. But we used to also do an event for years at CES, and sort of the pandemic fell into the background, called The Last Gadget Standing. We curated 10 you had to see products, and then it was sort of like Survivor meets Shark Tank, and it was a little bit like the high school play, because we didn't go by how much money you could spend on the demo, but what your product was. And it was, the audience voted with sound applause, which was another twist on things. So there was this raucous feeling to the whole room. And if you loved the product, the audience won. And I think one of the people that won, one of the very first years we did it, it was the Misfit. It was a wearable. It was Sunnyview's wearable, which he then sold to Fossil right after the show for something like $470 million.
Wow.
So I think, to your point, there are all these different ways to touch people. Some will want to stay up late with you. Some will want to go into the desert with you. I don't know if any of you remember the years when Fuji used to do a hot air balloon over Vegas.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So Ryan, give us the cars thing before we have to get out. Tell me what we missed if we don't love cars.
Yeah, look, it really is the tale of two stories, I think, for automobiles at CES 2025. And, self-disclosure, I'm from Southeast Michigan, so I see a lot of this stuff in my own backyard. Try not to drink the Kool-Aid too much. I think on the practical side, this was the year where there was a lot of more refined driver assistance and what I would call near autonomous innovations that you would dare call practical as opposed to fantastical. So folks like Bosch and Aptiv and Waymo had things that really acknowledge that there are a group of consumers who, beyond autopilot and what Tesla has proclaimed from a marketing position, are maybe a few degrees more skeptical or concerned, but would like to welcome those technologies into their vehicles. The best analogy would be like what General Motors is doing with SuperDrive. And so being able to see that come to life was really interesting, and the positioning of it, given the pushback and the concerns and the regulatory environment, I found pretty fascinating this year. The other thing I'd also say is sort of vehicle to everything, which I think they're calling V2X, or other words, like car area networks, was a big boon this year, because I think there's this realization that, oh my gosh, all of these different providers, all these different OEMs are all working on this, and none of them are talking to one another. There's not standards, right? Because they want their autonomy stuff to be effectively a black box. So then what happens when you put all these black boxes onto freeways and highways around the world and they can't talk to one another? So V2X is trying to figure out how to bridge those gaps on a practical basis to make all of this a lot safer. Now, on the other side, this is me being snarky for a second, Robin. I would be remiss not to call out the announcements from Honda and from Sony.
No,
I am a
go for it.
Okay, I am a pro EV guy, just to say it out loud. But you have to start questioning the sensibility of the Honda Zero SUV and the Honda Zero Saloon, borrowing a cool British term. A saloon apparently elsewhere in the world is a station wagon, what we call that here in the States. And I guess it's all fine and good, but honest to God, the Honda Zero, if you Google it, it looks like a dustbuster got together with like a Volvo. It is the weirdest industrial design, and also a little bit late to the game, where like the saloon model even looks more like an anteater, and that's being generous.
No, I felt they felt the need to up the Cybertruck. That was the whole.
I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, honestly. And granted, those are prototypes, so we'll see what they get when they come to market. Now, what isn't a prototype, for those of you that have been following Sony's weird voyage into automotive the last several years, they gave us a look at the Afeela, which is AFEELA, like I feel EV. Again, what market this fits? It's $100,000 to buy in. You only can order it in California, I guess, right now. Maybe who knows when else it'll come else broader. The one reason I guess you'd buy it if a Model S wasn't your bag is that the passenger can play PlayStation, which I guess is kind of cool, but I guess that would be not worth $100,000 for me, Robin.
Yeah, well, the one that freaked me out was how much commerce, how much shopping was being built into the cars, because
Oh my goodness.
I
Yes.
already see enough distracted people in cars next to me thinking that they're actually thinking about where their pizza stop is and putting in their order. Kind of drove me, felt it was, terrifying to see the results there. But we only
You're
have
seeing a lot of one-sided display technology too. So for passengers of either front seat passengers or back seat passengers, really going full connected car on that, and making sure that the LED array tilts away from the driver so that in theory doesn't distract you, but it feels like again, if your passenger or significant other is live shopping in the seat next to you at full volume, that probably doesn't bode well for your
Oh
driving.
yeah, I can't even have a conference call with my partner in the car. But just to
We
sort
need
of
barf bags. We need like a little barf bag place. If we're gonna have screens that are doing so much stuff in the car for the non-driver, as somebody who gets motion sick, if I even look at my phone for more than 60 seconds, these screens, I'm like, I can't do it. Can't
That's
do
where
it.
the I feel it comes in, Melissa. Like I feel sick. I'm gonna barf right now.
I feel it. I love it. I feel it. So for the I am going to we could go on like this. We covered a lot of ground. This was our program in the creator space, which we're very proud of because it's the first time that CES, and God bless them for believing in this, um, went in this direction, and I'm sure will see it again. And I just want to tell you, next week we're doing something really interesting. We'll be at Silicon Valley Video Summit, where our keynote speaker will be an AI. It is Reid Hoffman's AI, and if you go on to LinkedIn and search for REID, Reid Hoffman, Reid co-founded LinkedIn, but you will see this is the guy that created the large language models and a lot of the interactions behind Reid. So we're going to do this keynote by an AI, which will get us into next year's CES 2026, when we'll start to see digital replicas and digital twins take more of a space. And if you really want to hear more about the creators, we will be this April, we'll be at the NAB show, looking at the creator economy from a different lens, which is more production, broadcast, skills based, and how do you up your game in what is turning out to be a very crowded market. We will be back on your wavelength next month. Not all the details are worked out yet, but it will be to teach you something about video. We'll take it out of Silicon Valley Video Summit and our work there, and we'll be in touch with you about a date. And thank you for spending an hour of your life with us. I hope you got Justin, who's no longer here with us, Gigi Robinson, Janey Park, Adam Wescott, Ryan Schramm. Thank you so much, Alfred, for chiming in there, as you always do, just for bringing your wealth of knowledge, because if not, we're just blind men touching elephants, right? Thank you. We'll see you soon.